All right, good morning, everyone. This is our first Coffee with the Mayor virtually. I want to welcome everyone. The only difference this time from all the coffees in the past is actually our 44th coffee will be that you don't have a sign-in sheet. So I want to thank everyone who's online with us. The way it'll work is everyone's muted to keep the background noise down. And for those of you that have been to these before, you know that I don't say too much unless you have questions. We have our city administrator, Sam Ansom, and our economic development manager, Julian Jacqueline, with us this morning. And Councilmember Joe Garitano, I believe, is with us, and soon to arrive, Councilmember Dave Bertolino. So if anyone wants to ask a question or talk, just click the raise hand button that is on the system, and that'll let me know, and then we will unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, and we'll take it from there. So who wants to go first?
Mind if I jump in for a bit, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Okay. Has everybody used Zoom before? If you could, maybe if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a participants window. When you click on that tab, it'll pull up a list of participants on the right-hand side of your screen. In that participants window, down at the bottom, there's a raise hand button. If you click on that, that will put a little hand in that window so that the mayor or one of the moderators, either myself or Julian, knows to unmute you, and you can ask your question, and then we'll get the answer from the mayor or the other staff member who the question is directed to.
Thank you for that explanation, Sam. We'll get there.
We'll get there. This is normally not a shy group, so I'm thinking it's a tech issue.
Oh, there's a couple.
All right. So do you guys want to do that, or do you want me to do it?
There we go. We've
Yeah, you can go for it.
Yeah. Julian, why don't you go ahead and unmute people as they raise their hands? So
sure.
We
have two hands raised. We will start with William. I will lower the hand first and unmute here in a second. There you go. William is up.
Okay, so I am operating on an iPad, and the raise hand is, you click on the screen and it's in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
But I can ask a question too. I've noticed a number of potholes around. Is there a process underway going, now that spring has sprung, to fill more of them in, or?
So I'll take a stab at that, and then we'll turn it over to our city administrator. My understanding, thank you for the question, first of all, it's also for being with us this morning. It's great to have you. My understanding is that it is generally better to wait until warm weather starts to fill the potholes, just because of the durability of the materials to do it. But Sam, do you want to reply to that more in more depth?
Yeah, you are correct. Usually once the asphalt plants open up, we'll be able to have some hot mix asphalt actually put it into the potholes, and that tends to last a little bit longer than the cold mix that we have. I am right now on our website. I'm going to grab a copy of our Public Works form, which is a Public Works maintenance request. What you can do is you can use that to go onto our website to report any pothole locations that you might find. And at that point, we can, that gets sent to our Public Works Department, and then we can dispatch our contractor out to repair those.
Super. Thank you.
So if you have any issues, just shoot us an email and we will get that on the list and get it taken care of.
So I'll grab that copy of that form and I'll put it in the chat window. So if you're familiar with Zoom, there's a chat window that pops up as well. And I'll jump that on there right now.
All right, we have a few more hands going up. We will start with Karen.
Good morning, Karen.
She is unmuted.
Good morning. I guess my question would be is, it's really hard right now. I'm trying to run a small pharmacy during this time. I don't know, are you guys having as much trouble as we are getting information on to our employees and to, you know, from the government on how we had to handle all this COVID problem?
Well, that's a great question. And it's I sympathize with you, Karen. It's difficult for all of us because of a number of things, mainly because it's sort of, in the last few days, it's tempered somewhat, but at least at the beginning of the crisis, there was a new order coming from St. Louis County, very frequently, sometimes within, a day or so. Combined with that, we have an order, at least one, I believe from, if not more, from our governor. And we've, on a city level, had to look at all of those, and they refer to departments of health, which can issue their own set of orders. And so what you can end up with is a number of orders that you have to look at. And so I think the first thing I would suggest is looking at, I think the most detailed is an order that's from the St. Louis County Department of Health, and it lists businesses that can stay open and what the parameters of doing that are. I think it might be, to your question, helpful for you and others if we haven't already done so, and Sam, you can jump in here and let us know. But if we haven't put that particular order, the latest one from the Department of Health, that delineates businesses that can stay open and those that can't, and the distancing suggestions and so forth, we might put that on our website for people to access to get more information. But essentially, that is the best, I think, as we sit here today, the best document that lists what we can and can't do in businesses and so forth. And so it's not too lengthy, but it should be a pretty quick read. But that's what I would suggest. Sam, do you have anything to mention in addition to that?
Well, I'll actually refer to Julian. We have a city website on our city page on our website. If you go to cityofwildwood.com/coronavirus or corona, you'll see a list of all of the, there are a couple of subpages to that. One of them is a subpage for small businesses, and Julian has worked closely on developing that page. So I would recommend that any small business owner go there because it has a list of resources provided at the federal level, but we can certainly make sure that the list of essential businesses with that health order is included on there. I'm thinking it might be already, but if it's not, we can get it up there within a couple of, yep, Julian said it is. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, one of the subpages on that website is a list of essential services that does link to the stay-at-home order from St. Louis County with the list of what St. Louis County has determined to be essential services and which businesses in Wildwood fall under those categories.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think Councilmember Bertolino is next.
Yeah, good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Thanks for setting all this up. My question is to Rick. Rick, it looks like they're getting ready to pave on the 109 bridge construction project. And maybe that'll start happening today or tomorrow if it doesn't rain. I haven't been out at night for like eons. So are the lights up yet on that? If not, do you have an update on it?
Yes, sir, they are. To answer your question, they should be paving today and tomorrow, and I believe that should wrap the resurfacing work up. The lights are on as well at night. If people drive by, we'll note that the trail lighting is not turned on at night. It's operational. They have left the trail lighting off just so that they didn't want to encourage folks to walk within the project limits at this time. But the roadway lighting is on, and that's activated for nighttime hours.
Thank you.
And I think we have Councilmember Garitano next. Good morning, Joe.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for doing this. I love it. I hope we can do more of these because it's great to be able to do it from home, and gives a lot of flexibility to folks that may not be able to make it physically. So love the idea. I've got a question actually for Rick as well. So you're popular today, Rick. So are you, I noticed the Manchester Road Streetscape project is moving along nicely. Started seeing that they're pouring concrete in those parking space areas. And I was just curious, are they able to do more because perhaps there's less traffic these days? Or, you know, obviously with folks not going out, are we able to maybe address that road differently than we had thought we would do before?
Oh, well, I think it certainly helps, maybe more certainly helps to not have the traffic on the road, no question about it. And you're seeing that on 109 because they're able to get out and do the resurfacing work today. So that's definitely a benefit in terms of handling traffic and reducing delays to potential motorists driving through the work area. I don't know that I'd go so far as to suggest that they're going to be more productive and finish early at this point. But certainly that would be a nice benefit if that is the end result. But we can keep tabs of that, and hopefully they will keep working. I mean, that's the other side of that coin is I'm concerned that there might be a reason in the future that they will not be able to work, but we're optimistic that they will be able to continue to do so and get materials and the suppliers, you know, provide them concrete and that kind of thing.
All right, thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the question, Joe.
If I could jump in as well, for any folks who have joined a little bit after the meeting started, if you're not familiar with Zoom, if you go down to the bottom window, you'll see a list of participants. If you click on that tab, you'll be able to raise your hand. And depending on whether you're on an iPad or some other device, that button might be in a different part on your screen. But if you click that raise hand button, we'll be able to know that you have a question, and we'll get you unmuted and you'll have the opportunity.
Karen Jelling, yes.
So I noticed they closed a few parks around, like Castlewood. I was really shocked and saddened about that because that's a park that we use quite a bit. Will we have to do that? Will we be in charge of closing any parks in Wildwood? Because we do have so many. Are we going to have to do that because of people not doing the social distancing?
So to my knowledge, well, first of all, most of our parks are controlled by either the state or St. Louis County. We do have the community park, obviously Anniversary Park, and some others that are city controlled. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of a situation that is similar to what apparently presented itself in Castlewood with respect to people congregating, you know, in contravention to the social distancing recommendation or requirement. So at this point, there's no plan on the part of the city to close its parks. Obviously, this is a situation that, you know, we monitor on a day-by-day, hour-by-hour basis for the safety of our residents. But at this point, there's no plan to close any of our parks.
Good.
I am also monitoring the chat window, so if you cannot find the raise hand button, just drop a note in the chat window and we'll try to respond.
So who wants to go next with a question or a comment?
Joe, you're up.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious, maybe our city administrator might be the one to answer this question, but how are things at City Hall with the obviously with what we've got going on with coronavirus? Are the phones still busy, or things kind of quieted down over there because of what's happening?
The phones never stop ringing at City Hall, which is a good thing. That keeps us busy and keeps us on our toes. You never know what kind of calls are going to come in from residents or businesses. But yes, we are open by appointment. So any individual who wants to come in and visit with a staff member, we're asking that they call City Hall or send an email to that person. We have that information on our COVID-19 webpage as well. We've got our staff directory there. So people can just go on there, find who they're looking for, reach out to them by phone or email. And if we need to set up an appointment in person, we can do that. But we have had a lot of meetings via Zoom and GoToMeeting before we started using Zoom. So we prefer folks to stay home to again, follow those orders that are coming down from the state and the county. But at the same time, we are open for business. So if you have any needs, just let us know and we'll be happy to work you through those.
Yeah, and I'll just finish off because you did mention that folks can contact you various ways. I just want to compliment the folks that have worked on the website with the new dedicated resource page for COVID or the coronavirus. I think that is a great resource for all our residents. I've been pointing folks to it to be able to check it out, and I appreciate the list of restaurants that are out there. I know that folks want to support local businesses during this time and in a way that they most comfortably can. So that's been a great resource. And I did get a resident that said we should probably look and see maybe if there's a way to expand that list for those restaurants that not the restaurants, I mean businesses that might still be operating or able to operate, that maybe folks may not be aware they are still able to go to them or obviously contract for their services. So just a thought, a suggestion there, but love what you're doing there with that site.
Appreciate that. Nope, we've got a great team that handles our social media as well as our webpage development, and they do a fantastic job. So shout out to Travis and Kathy and Julian. They do good work.
Yeah, I would agree. And Joe, thanks for raising that question, and Sam for your answer. And just to tag on to what Sam said, I saw something a few days ago that someone had posted that said City Hall is closed. City Hall is not closed. We are open, as Sam mentioned, within the confines of what we need to comply with relative to not only the safety of the people, safety of our residents, but the safety of the employees at City Hall. And as Sam mentioned, anyone who wants to make an appointment can do that. And the phones are answered. And in fact, I'm here this morning in the community room where we always have coffee with the mayor. And as you know, we're continuing to have our council meetings, again, within the confines of what we need to do, but the rules to keep this government working for its residents in an uninterrupted way. So thanks again for the question. I think Councilmember Bertolino was next.
And we did have one other first. Dennis tried to raise his hand earlier, but was unable to, so I unmuted him.
Yeah, for some reason, I had the hand here on my screen earlier, but I don't see it now, and so I sent it via the text. I participated in that one session with the Erosion Task Force, and they were talking about getting the system set up for us to be able to report. And while sheltering at home, walking around like in the creek, I did take a couple pictures, and I was trying to see if that system was now set up to be able to report those, because I thought that we were going to either via the website or something have that mechanism in place. And I just haven't seen the details or know the information how to do that.
Sam, do you have any knowledge on that one?
I know Julian has actually been working on a map. I've seen some emails fly about the work that's being done. I think I saw one of the Erosion Task Force members just email the coordinates to us, which then we can use to go ahead and populate the map information. But I'll go ahead and ask Kathy to respond to you and get what you need. So
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember Bertolino.
Oh, no problem. This maybe is to Kathy and others, and maybe it's already on the website and I'm just not aware of it, but a lot of the subdivisions and various social groups on media, such as I'm in one with Green Pines Elementary School and various subdivisions, and they're all putting on these events for their kids that are walk around events. Like there was a bear hunt one day, there was put hearts in the window another day. Do we have a list of those and somewhere that we can share that type of information with all of our residents?
Julian, do you or Sam know an answer to that?
I'm responding to a chat right now. Sam, can you jump in?
Yep. So I'm trying to think. I can certainly have our rec staff see if there's an opportunity. And the difficulty, I think, is learning what all of those other groups doing and just staying on top of those. So if there's a community calendar or something that we can figure out to have people put those events on the page themselves, that might be an option, but we can certainly explore it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Karen?
I actually did put my neighborhood, which is that next door thing. I put a bear hunt up, and if you look on those, you can find everybody. There's people that are helping a neighbor that needs groceries. You can put red, green, or yellow. Green means you're okay if you're an older person. Red means I need help, and yellow says, could you just check on me? And it's just nice things, just so we kind of keep up in our neighborhood in Winding Woods on what's going on. My other question is, I know the city of St. Louis is going to put the zip codes of people who have the virus. Will we be doing anything like that so we know around how many people in Wildwood have it? And are we, is it getting worse out here? I just was kind of curious about that.
That's a great question. That is controlled by St. Louis County. And to my knowledge, they have not revealed the location of where people are, live that have been infected. So we're not privy to that information at this point. That said, I suspect that should there be cases in Wildwood that would pop up, we would likely, be aware of that one way or the other from a practical standpoint. So, and I'm not aware of any.
Well, I just was wondering. I didn't know if anybody had said anything yet or not.
No, St. Louis County has not put that level of detail out relative to the people who have contracted it.
And there is a question in the chat window. She said that she's having difficulty staying connected, but that St. Louis County has the lead if an emergency state is issued. Do we have a written community mitigation guideline plan specifically to prevent pandemics as outlined in the CDC MMWR? Also, are the council members and mayor certified in incident command for pre, during, and post-pandemic planning?
That is a great question. Thank you for that. The city has been party to what's called an emergency operations plan. It's a very lengthy, detailed document between the city and St. Louis County. And we've been a party to that agreement for a number of years. And until a moment like this, you never really know about it. But essentially what that document does is to set forth who does what and how things are handled in the event of situations like this where we have an epidemic, or if we were to have a tornado or an earthquake or anything of that nature. And it's very well thought out, and it sets forth, in really well done order, how things are to unfold. And basically, as you might expect, one of the great things about having that in advance of a situation like this is it's much easier to think through some of those things when you're not in the midst of a crisis. So I'm thankful that we have that. Secondly, the county has not, under that operations plan, declared a full state of emergency. And that's the reason that at the last council meeting, the council by a supermajority vote passed resolution 2020-11. And that resolution would give me the ability, if necessary, to suspend certain rules to protect our residents. That hasn't come about yet, and I hope it doesn't. But if it does, that's available. Relative to training, I would circle back to, in that part of your question, circle back to the emergency operations plan, which, as I mentioned, provides who's going to do what. And so there are people specialized in and have that exact type of training and frankly more that would be in charge of everything from handling the on our first responder basis to getting word out to our residents, discussing things with the media and so forth. So it's a very comprehensive plan. It is in place. Hopefully we don't have to go to that point, but if we do, it's there. And of course, the resolution that our council passed is also a good thing to have, to supplement that. I see Vince Loyal's hand.
Morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How are you, Vince?
Great. Want to let you know here in Town Center, we're fortunate to have outstanding internet service. Greatly appreciative for that. But I'm curious about with the challenges that have been faced in some of the rural areas and with the students learning from home and a great deal of folks working from home, has that heightened the awareness, importance, urgency to address the issues at the city level?
That's a great question. We have lots of good questions this morning. Thank you for that. From my perspective, the issue of getting high-speed internet service to our rural residents is consistently heightened without regard to a situation like this. It is one of my top 6 goals for the next several, 4 years to get accomplished. And we've made a lot of progress over the last few years with respect to it. And we're actually, as we sit here today, we're waiting to get responses, and we know they're coming, from several companies that we think might be potential communications partners to expand that on a more rapid basis. And how we do that and how it's paid for, those are bridges we'll cross once we get the RFPs back. But bottom line, Vince, that's an issue that without regard to a situation like this is front and center as far as I'm concerned. As a practical matter, I think you're correct that, the premise of your question that in a situation like this where our residents need to rely on the internet to participate in the coffee, like we're doing right now, and to have their children access homework and we have physicians that need to access patient records and business owners that need to work from their home. So absolutely, it's front and center. It always has been with me. This doesn't change that, but it certainly accentuates the issue that we need to address in our city.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And I would add
There's
too.
a follow-up question. And sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, we have some limited Wi-Fi outside of our City Hall building. So if there are students that have difficulty accessing the homework, they can park on the south or on the north side of our City Hall building. So they're on that front row on Main Street, and they should be able to pick up a pretty decent Wi-Fi signal that we have coming from the building. One of the other options we are looking at with our planning director is perhaps boosting that signal and making the Wi-Fi available, putting maybe one of the signals at our public garage and the municipal building as well to sort of expand the reach of that. But we're getting the cost information and some technical specs from one of our internet providers. And as soon as we can get moving on that one, I think we'll probably move forward with that as well.
Julia, did you say there was a follow-up question?
Correct. From Teresa in the chat window, back to the emergency mitigation question. She said, I have read the entire EOP and it has a number of mistakes and it doesn't cover the specific incident command tech terminology and specific pandemic needs. Who should I contact to offer corrections to the current EOP?
I would be happy to take those. And so if you want to send an email to me directly, jbolin@cityofwildwood.com, I would definitely entertain your thoughts on it, and we'll take a look at it more thoroughly. Councilmember Bertolino.
Yeah, thanks again. I see we have Dr. Ken Ramey on with us this morning. Ken, is it possible that we can get a from the front line update from Ken?
Sure, if he's willing. Ken, can you give us your thoughts on the situation?
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, perfect. Sure. Dave, just so I understand exactly. So as of the last week, as you can see, our numbers have gone, I think, well above 600 now for the area. The most interesting thing is that the case fatality rate is probably going to be less than a percentage point, which is better than what we're seeing from the rest of the world, and certainly a little bit better than we're seeing in New York. To understand at least the case fatality rate and just to ease folks' minds, still 85 to 90% of all cases are actually very mild and don't even require hospitalization. And in fact, I think a lot of the deaths that we're seeing in New York are frankly not because of death by coronavirus per se, but they're probably still deaths by the more common things like stroke and heart attacks, because that's at least what the data that we're seeing. I can tell you that in this region, and speaking with colleagues at some of the other institutions, that all of the hospital systems are working collegiately, and we have more than enough PPE. We've not surged and reached any sort of capacity. Certainly Christian Hospital in the north section of the city is reaching their capacity, but the unique thing is that the number of cases of people that are presenting with COVID infection for at least evaluation has certainly increased substantially, but a number of the patients that ordinarily would be hospitalized for other things have significantly decreased. And so at the present time, from my understanding at most of these institutions, is that because there's been a decrease, especially in elective surgeries that require hospitalizations and those sorts of things, that this has actually eased some of the strain that ordinarily would be put upon the system under these conditions, if that makes sense. Thank you. So I worked last night in the Children's Hospital, and then just left to getting some research from one of the other hospitals, and I'll be at the adult hospital this week. We've seen a significant increase in at least the number of positive cases that we're having at the hospital, but fortunately, most of those patients are doing reasonably well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate it very much. And thank you for what you're doing on the front lines. I think this is a time that I would just like to thank not only you, but all of our other residents that work in medical offices, you know, the front lines in our grocery stores, at gas stations, and people, frankly, that are at much more risk than some of us that are really stepping to the plate and keeping our society and our economy moving. So thank you. Appreciate it. Julian, do we have anyone in the chat? It looks like we might have a question there.
Nope, I don't see
It does not look like anything in the chat right now.
Okay.
Again, folks, if you're not
There is
familiar-
a-
Yep, you can open up the participants window and raise your hand, and we'll unmute you, or you can put your question in the chat window as well. We'll be happy to answer those.
And as a follow-up, there was a previous question on creek erosion and submitting logs and coordinates for erosion issues. I know that both Ken and Kathy are on the call now. If either of them would like to respond to that question.
Ken, Remy, would you like to respond to that as chair of that?
He is muted. Hold on one second.
Actually, I'll defer to Kathy. In full disclosure, over the last 2 weeks, I've been inundated with COVID, so my creek erosion has taken a back seat at the moment, so I'll defer to Kathy.
Okay. I was just kind of snooping on here, but I'll be happy to answer. We do have the data collection form created, and we ran through one set of beta testing over the weekend with some members of the task force. And we've made some revisions to that form. We're trying to get it a little more cleaned up. And we're a little hesitant to release it to the public at this point, just because of the stay-at-home order. So you can fill out a creek report form on our website. It's cityofwildwood.com/erosion report. So if you have issues on your property, we really want you to get us your information. That way you can even upload photos for us. And at the moment, we have the task force members kind of doing work in the creek. So if you do see someone, you know, stop and say hi from 6 feet away, but that's probably who's out there. So until the world is a little calmer and we can have lots more people out there, I think we're going to try and have the task force members see what they can cover first. But I'm happy. You can email me at any time or give me a call, and I'm happy to answer any questions or get anybody the information they need.
Thank you, Kathy. And before we take the next hand I see here in the window, I just want to, first of all, let everyone know Kathy is on our team here at City Hall. And the COVID resource page that we were talking about earlier, that is a terrific page to go to get information on the various orders that are out there, and what you can and can't do, and business for businesses and so forth. Kathy largely put that together and did a terrific job on it. So I just want to publicly thank her for that. Just another thing she did that was outstanding. So thanks for being here this morning, Kathy, and thanks for your work on that. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Bertolino?
Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm dominating. I'm sorry. You know, you're home in quarantine, you think of questions all day long. So this is to Rick and maybe to Kathy. I have been by the Shiva site for the MSD reconstruction work that's being done on Cops Creek, and it's massive. I mean, I'm really I should say impressed with the amount of work that's going in there. Rick, do we have a sense that they're doing it right? You know, we had a lot from Dr. Hammer and others who were talking about these reconstruction programs, and do they really help or do they hinder? Do we have a sense of that? Because they are doing a lot of work in there. It looks like they're going to be building huge walls, etc. Can you comment on that?
I'll do my best, sir. MSD is the sponsor of that project, as you've mentioned, and my understanding was it was primarily based on concerns relative to the stability of their sanitary sewer line in that area. So that's the primary focus, is to stabilize the creek to avoid any damage to the sanitary sewer line in that area. But based on the plans that I've seen, I've not seen any red flags relative to anything that's being done. We did a review of the plans ourselves, but again, MSD is taking the lead with that project. So if there's any specific concerns, we'll certainly be glad to bring them up with MSD.
Thank you.
You know, relative to Rick, relative to Dave's question, if we haven't done it, you know, the meeting we had on the erosion issues, we did hear from the experts, as you know, about what may appear at first blush to be a good thing to do in terms of how to fix erosion issues. If you don't have the expertise, it can be a false way to, you know, not the best. So if we haven't done it, it might not be a bad idea to reach out to MSD and just double check with them and make sure that you know, some of the things that we've learned from our experts are being followed with respect to that, so that the situation isn't made worse.
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
And Ken Remy says he has a question for the mayor whenever free.
Actually, I've got a short statement and just a quick question for the mayor. So I do want to just follow up on the question about what's going on the front lines and ways that folks can deal with this whole pandemic and how it infects their daily lives, especially being quarantined and isolated at home. So I'm going to say that one of the most important things, I think, in dealing with this sort of major crisis that is going on in people's day-to-day lives is to remain calm. And I think understanding that their police, their fire, and their hospitals are actually well equipped and well prepared to be able to deal with this and have backup plan after backup plan to try to troubleshoot these issues is important. I think I wanted to mention, though, to the folks that are involved in this call today and others, that it's also vitally important that local governments remain open and are active in continuing to do their business. And I would like to just give kudos to the mayor for that reason, because I think individuals don't understand that having your city continue the business of the city, and for individuals to know that their city is looking out for them and protecting them in this sort of time of need is vitally important. And to continue the city business on a frequent way, albeit via this virtual platform, is probably more paramount to maintaining calm within at least our city of Wildwood. So I would encourage, I think the mayor, this is excellent to have this. I would encourage, if possible, if we could do weekly updates with the mayor while we're enduring this crisis, just so people can understand that we are going through this with calm and with a plan that's certainly been delineated and well thought out by both city employees and our elected officials.
Thank you, Ken, for that. Much appreciated. I could not agree more. Certainly, we have to be mindful of the various orders and protecting our city team here, protecting our residents, as well as elected officials. But it is essential that our residents know that their local government, on the ground is watching out for them and is functioning and doing it seamlessly. And to your point about having communications more frequently with me, our city administrator and I, we've been talking about ways to do that, and we're actually looking at some possibilities. And so thank you again, Ken. And also, I'd just like to use this opportunity to thank you for all you do for the city and for your input today. Julian, do we have anyone teed up in chat with a question?
Not yet. Somebody asked, when does the meeting end? And I responded in the chat window, 8:30 to 9 o'clock.
We typically end around, we do this for about an hour. For those of you that haven't been to a coffee, and by the way, our participants on this are today are not quite as many as we have in person, but it's a good number. And thanks for all of you for being here again. But we typically do these for an hour. But basically, if no one has any more questions, we'll end it at that point. And so we have a few minutes left. If there are any other questions, we're happy to take those. Or comments, thoughts on our city, anything. This is all about Wildwood. So all things Wildwood, fair game. And Sam, would you mind once again just letting people know how to ask a question if they're not familiar with the Zoom technology that we're using this morning?
Yeah, so if you just joined, there should be a participants tab and a chat tab. If you click on either one of those, for example, the chat window, if you click on that, you can go ahead and type in a new message, and either Julian and I will catch that and read that. Or if you click on the participants tab, you have the option to raise your hand, and at that point, Julian will unmute you, and then you can ask a question, and we'll go from there.
So we do have two questions in the chat. We'll take them one at a time. The first one from Teresa was, can we add closed captioning to this meeting? I can respond to that. Zoom, as of this point, does not offer automatic closed captioning with the video service. There is a manual transcription service that we are able to add our own closed captioning, but they have not yet released an automatic closed captioning platform. The difference, though, is specifically for meetings coming up, like council meetings and planning and zoning commission meetings. We will be recording and live streaming every one of those meetings through the Zoom platform going forward. When we take those videos and add those to our city website, we will use our website technology that we have to transcribe those meetings into closed captioning at that time. But while the meetings are posted on Zoom, Zoom doesn't have that technology just yet.
You know, one thing I would add to the question, and Teresa, thanks for asking that. If we could look at, particularly for council meetings, if we could look at another option, which might be to include a sign interpreter as one of the participants. I'm not sure of the logistics and how that could work. But if we could at least research that and see if that's a possibility, that would give our hearing impaired and others that are inhibited from understanding voice and so forth for a variety of reasons, the ability to understand in real time what's going on with the sign interpreter. So if we could just look at that certainly prior to the next council meeting and see what we can do, and maybe even if we do another coffee in this medium with Zoom, also having that person. Again, not sure if it would work with all the different windows and so forth, but at least like to explore that. And you say there was another question?
There is. So from Dennis, he said, I missed part of the answer. Are all city parks open except Anniversary Park?
Yes. All of our parks are open.
And two follow-up questions, one from Teresa. There might be ASL students from St. Louis Community College needing volunteer hours for the sign interpreter.
There you go.
And from Kelly Ring, why are all of our parks still open?
So our parks are open because we are not aware of any reason to close them at this point. And I hope we don't have any issues like that. You know, to the discussion we had earlier with Dr. Remy, one of our council members, about things that come into play in times like these where people are in much more confinement. I think it's important that we have places as a city where people, again, consistent with what the distancing rules and so forth, are able to go and enjoy themselves. So they're not closed because we don't have a reason at this point to consider closing. And thanks for the question. I see Karen.
Yeah, I have to leave now to go to the pharmacy, but I was just going to say there is one thing that's going on that might be nice to put on the website. Is it's called Light the Night, and they're asking you to turn your porch lights on or put a candle for all the first responders and everyone in the medical field to show your support. So that's that. If you look on the Next Door Neighbor website, you could find a lot of things that we could post that it would be nice to do as a whole city. So guys, have a good day and keep safe.
You too, Karen. Thanks for being with us.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Any other questions in chat, Julian?
Not yet.
All right. Well, we're getting near the end. Does anyone else, Sam, one last time, you might let people know how to raise their hand. If we have a couple more questions, we can take those before we end this morning.
Sure. So if you're new to Zoom and you're trying to figure out how to participate, there are two options. One, if you click on the Participants tab, you can raise your hand and the mayor will call on you. We'll get you unmuted so you can ask your question. The other option is through the chat window. So if you click on that tab and post your question in the chat, we will respond.
Does anyone have a question or a comment? I'm not seeing any. Julian, do you see any?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I think we may have everything answered for the day. So I want to thank all of you for being with us this morning on our 44th Coffee with the Mayor. First one we've done virtually. And thanks also for being part of Wildwood. You are our greatest asset. So if there are no other questions, we're going to end. And I just want to wish everyone a great rest of the week. Stay safe and don't hesitate to send me an email or city administrator, your council members, if you have any questions or concerns, and we'll get them taken care of for you. So with that, have a great day, everyone.